There we stood, Joe and I, and the family of four, with the roof now burning. The two young children were hysterical with fear. Their mom and dad were not faring much better. I ran to the kitchen window to try and get a head count on what we were facing. The only thing separating us from them was a sliding glass door. I peeked out, counted at least 6. We didn't have a numbers advantage, but the group had no idea that the family of 4 was not alone inside. Joe told the family to go hide in the first floor bathroom. I saw a silhouette coming around the front of the house to the front door. Seconds later, he kicked open the door and was met with multiple rounds of American Eagle 5.56. Joe covered the back. I yelled to him, "One down at the front door." The Marauders now knew this wouldn't be a walk in the park. Joe started firing on the group in the backyard through the kitchen window. That's when a metal lawn chair crashed, shattered the sliding glass door. It was quickly followed with a second Molotov cocktail that ignited onto the dining room table. Joe was able to drop the thug who threw it. 2 down now, but there was now heavy smoke and fire on the first floor, on top of the roof being fully engulfed. We needed to get out, and we needed to go fast, but Joe and I both knew that's what they wanted and would be waiting for us. We had 2 choices: succumb to smoke inhalation or evacuate through one of the 3 exits. The front door, the busted out sliding glass door, or head to the garage. Joe yelled to the family that was hiding out in the bathroom that it was time to go. The 6 of us headed for the garage. I opened the door to the garage while Joe was in the position, and thankfully so. Already in the garage was 2 thugs that Joe dispatched without blinking. 3 down. 4 down now. One was armed with a shotgun that I told the father to grab. There we stood, in a shootout to death, and I didn't even know his name. I asked, "What's your name, guy?" Surprised by my question, he replied back, "Sean. That's my wife, Ruth, and kids Casey and Lily." I calmly told them, "Sean and Ruth, we're going to get the 4 of you out of here alive." There were no windows on the garage doors, no telling what stood on the other side. There was a back door that led to the backyard, but it was too dangerous to get close enough to take a look. We heard a voice yell out, "We know you're trapped in there, and you've got to come out sometime, and we'll be waiting." It wouldn't be long before the roof gave way, and the fire in the dining room spread towards the kitchen. Both children were crying frantically. They looked to be no older than 7 or 8. I couldn't help but think of my own kids as I looked at them. I wasn't going to let them die. That's when the gunshots, 12-gauge sluggers to be exact, started peppering the aluminum garage doors, shredding holes in it like paper. I reached up, pulled the release on the garage door opener. Joe said, "What the hell are you doing?" I pulled out one of the grenades and said, "I'm going bowling." I told Sean, "Cover the back door while Joe cracks open the garage door, and I'm rolling out a surprise for these bastards." As soon as it explodes, we make our way out the back door. On 3, Joe. 1, 2, 3. Joe opened the door while standing to the side, carefully avoiding incoming rounds. I pulled the pin, rolled that son of a bitch under and out, and 5 seconds later, the entire garage rattled as the explosion echoed down the street. Joe said, "Let's go." He led us out the back door. I had no idea what we'd encounter, but we would immediately find out. Joe told us to stay in a tight line formation as we exited out the back. We knew at least 4 had met their maker, and hopefully the grenade explosion took out the rest. We exited and headed left to make our way around front, Joe leading, followed by Sean and his family, then me covering the rear. Immediate gunfire came from the other side of the deck. Joe was hit. He dropped to the ground. I returned fire and was able to terminate another threat. 5 down for sure. I told Sean, cover us while I checked on Joe. Fortunately, the round struck him directly on his chest plate. He was stunned and dazed, but was going to be okay. I told Joe, don't scare me like that, man. My wife had radioed. She had heard the explosion and the chaos. She was worried. I told her, can't talk, but okay for now. I pulled Joe to his feet. I told him I was going to go get around front and see what's left out there. I carefully made my way around the garage, staying low and close to the siding of the house. I peeked around front, seen 2 more bodies, neither fully intact, on the driveway. Number 6 and 7 down. To my amazement, there was one still alive, crawling away on the ground. His right leg was missing from the knee down. I motioned for my group to come forward. I asked the wounded thug where he was crawling off to. He responded, eat shit. I said, how about I finish you off, cut you up, throw you on the grill, and I'll eat you, asshole. He said, you wouldn't dare. I said, I've already done it before. He was now shaking in fear at my cannibalism threat. I asked how many more were in your group. He said dozens. I hoped he was bullshitting me, but I needed to know the truth. I had hoped this was the end of our domestic threat. I told Sean to take his wife and kids around to the back of the house. They didn't need to see what was coming. The marauder said, more are going to come. Eventually, your luck's going to run out. I said, well, today, your luck runs out. This is for Alicia and her family. I raised my foot up into the air and began stomping his head in with my Rocky Gear tactical boots. I looked over at Joe and said, never waste a bullet, right? This is personal, and I'm going to make him suffer. I smiled and said, 8 down, as I wiped the brains and blood off my boots in the now foot-high grass. Sean could not thank Joe and I enough for protecting them and guaranteeing they'd see their children another day. Joe told him, don't thank us just yet. There's more of them out there, and worse yet, there's Russian boots on the ground just 10 miles away, due south. We shared all the intel we received via the military contract workers and what I'd gathered from the ham radio. Ruth was intrigued about the camp at the local high school. I told them, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You have to think about your kids first. There are multiple vacant houses near me that you could take up residence at. We have extra food, extra water. I asked Joe how he was doing after absorbing a round to the chest plate. He said he'd be a little sore. 2 tours in Afghanistan, and he'd never been shot. He said what we're facing and dealing with here is far worse in Afghanistan. Domestic and foreign enemies, no power and no allies besides each other. Sean and Ruth decided to seek harbor at the high school. I told Sean how we were instructed to show up unarmed. He handed me the shotgun. I said, no, keep it. He said, what do you mean? I told him, keep it. Ditch it and hide it before you get there. There's no telling what you'll encounter on the way. If you decide to come back, grab it and protect your family. Part of me wanted to escort them, but I had my own family that needed me at home. Joe was in no condition to make the trip. I thought about driving them there in the Bronco, but truth is, I didn't want to risk the vehicle unless we were bugging out. I handed him my walkie, told him we're on channel 22. If you run into anything, let us know. You've got about 2 hours till darkness. Either way, stay in radio contact. The school's less than a mile away. I told them, we have some water back at Joe's. Let's get him home, stock you guys up before you set off. We handed them each some water bottles we'd scored from the house next to Joe's and gave Sean some additional ammo too. We wish Sean, Ruth, Casey, and Lily our best. Joe headed in. I told him I'd contact him later. as we'd both monitor Sean on Channel 22. I was thankful again to see my house as I rounded the corner. I entered through the gate, as I normally did, into the garage. And before I got both feet in, my 8-year-old daughter was standing there and said, "Dad, we have a big problem."